Good morning, dear ones.
Good morning.
It is my great joy. First of all, thank you. Thank you so much for being here this morning and spending time with me. It is my great joy, beyond words, to be here with you this morning on this morning. And I have to tell you why, is because yesterday, and we planned this in advance, so this would work out perfectly. And thanks to Reverend Dr. Janine so much for your helping allow this to happen. So yesterday I kind of had a birthday. And I won't tell you which one, but suffice it to say that my Medicare card is in my wallet. How in the world did this happen? I have no idea. So I have a sweet emotional attachment to the community of Watermill. And the reason for that is, growing up, my mother did not have a happy time. Her father was in the Army. They would move every few months, and if you come from a military family, you know how that works. And so they moved a lot, and so she never had the opportunity to make and keep close friends, so she got into reading. And she absolutely loved to read, and she passed that passion along to my sister and me. So we grew up reading fiction, nonfiction. Those of you of a certain age remember a World Book Encyclopedia and Childcraft. Remember Childcraft? Yeah, just so cool. Before this technology, there were books that I get to hold in my hand and read. And one of the books that both my sister and I loved was Harriet the Spy. And that was based in New York City. Harriet, elementary age young lady who had snarky remarks and observations about everybody and kept a notebook about everybody. Well, the problem with that is inevitably in the story, the notebooks get misplaced. And people who shouldn't be seeing the notebooks got to see the notebooks. So that's a wonderful book. And then the sequel to that is The Long Secret. So Harriet and her friend Beth Ellen spend summers in Watermill on Montauk Highway. So I have been here hundreds of times, but only in my mind and my heart. So it is so awesome beyond words to be with you in person today. So thank you. Thank you so much for being with me. So this last week I was in warm and balmy Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 95 degrees, about the same, really, about the same amount of humidity. Go to the beach, the sand is hot, so you step into the water to cool off, and the water's just as hot as the sand, oh my goodness. But nonetheless, it was the INTA, the International New Thought Alliance Conference, a separate organization from the one that Dr. Janine mentioned, but an organization of New Thought centers and churches and individuals. A great gathering this last week in Fort Lauderdale. And we talked about not only what's next for New Thought, but also how do we reach the people who have not heard and don't know what we know? How do we reach them? How do we speak to them? How do we encourage them to recognize that life is supposed to work for you? That life, with a capital L, loves you, nurtures you, and will always respond as you believe. So we talked a lot about that. And what we determined, because I suggested it, is we have to meet people and ourselves where we are. Meet people with their grief. We don't talk about grief, everything is wonderful, everything's in divine order, everything is as it should be, and that's absolutely the truth, but the fact is our hearts may be breaking, and it's so important for us to meet ourselves and others exactly where they are and allow us and them to begin that healing process. So it was an awesome week. And Tuesday I get to go home to San Diego, which will be equally as wonderful. So it's just been a great time. So I'd like to share some words with you from Ernest Holmes. Through the mental and spiritual activity of thought directed toward a definite end, we bring about a greater good, a more abundant life, a better condition than existed before. This is called demonstration. We can demonstrate at the level of our ability to know. So y'all are talking this month. I'm from Southern California, so I say y'all. Y'all are talking this month about demonstration, about manifestation, about answered prayer, whatever term works for you, but about this, after we say, and so it is, something happens. And we know that. We absolutely know that something happens. But I would suggest for us that as we think about this and talk about this, it's so important to recognize what we really believe about our higher power. That God, Spirit, the universe, the infinite, the divine, whatever you choose to call it, not what Ernie taught us, not what the books tell us, not what we were told to believe, but what in our heart of hearts, what do we believe about life with a capital L and about God, or whatever term works for you. Continuing to quote Ernest Holmes, consider the spirit as a warm, pulsating, reciprocal thing. It presses against us, it flows through us, it is our intelligence. It is a great universal urge and surge. It is a warm, colorful thing. It is a beautiful thing. It cannot be put into words. You can only feel it. But consider the law as a cold fact, nothing else. It has no motivation of itself. It is just a power, a blind force, but it is an intelligent and executing and immutable force. The law is the servant of spirit. So in my life, in your life, something's happened. Situation with our health, situation with our relationships, situation with our work or our money. The question for me, and please be aware that whenever I'm speaking with you, I'm also talking to myself. How long after I have that appearance of something do I take it into my affirmative prayer, into my spiritual mind treatment? Do I lose sleep? Do I think about, well, I could do that, but if that doesn't work, I'll do that. And if that doesn't work, I can call this person and then this person. At what point down the road do we finally say, and I have to admit that this is a little bit of a platitude for me, because in traditional Christianity, people would say, well, pray about it. But how often do we wait until we're way down the road before we take it into our prayer work? In the New Testament, and we in New Thought don't always talk about the Bible so much, and that's okay, but I love to do that because I just love to stir the pot and talk about things we don't talk about. And you might remember the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, ask, seek, and knock. So how often do we, and are we comfortable asking and seeking and knocking and keep knocking? And we'll talk about that in a minute. How far do we get down the road of lost sleep and no more fingernails if you bite your fingernails when you're worried? Or there's no more Ben & Jerry's in the freezer because I'm worried about this, and so I'm going to feel better, and inevitably I will feel better after the Ben & Jerry's. But how long do we go before we say, now wait a minute, I don't know. Can we say, I don't know? But Spirit does, and allow Spirit to do what Spirit does. So we do our affirmative prayer, our spiritual mind treatment, and we say, and so it is. And then what? Sometimes it manifests for us right away. So the parking place. We've had, Dr. Janine and I have had parking angels with us throughout the time that I've spent with her, because, well, I don't want to walk and it's a little warm, or I've got stuff to get, and you just do your thing. And it may not be the 5 steps, because, we're taught the 5 steps. And sometimes we can do the 5 steps, and sometimes we just say, oh God, and it doesn't matter, because of course we're doing the work within ourselves, and there's the parking place. So that's kind of easy. And I don't know about you, but in our first year class, that was the project, the first project that we were given was, so you manifest parking places. And then you go to something a little more difficult and you do the new job or the new relationship or lovingly releasing the old relationship or whatever it is that you're looking to do in your life. And so we stretch our spiritual muscles knowing that our higher power, our spirit, is this loving, nurturing presence that Jesus talked about that is always done unto us as we believe. So, which is an interesting question for us, because what do we still believe? Even if we've been in this teaching forever, what do we really believe about spirit? Is it the loving, nurturing presence? Is it that Ernest Holmes described? Or is it still the hateful, surly, cranky, white, straight old man up on a cloud someplace that would turn us into a pillar of salt in a heartbeat? The first response is, no, I've gotten past all that. Okay, but the opportunity, because I don't like the word challenge, the opportunity for us is to just check back in. Who do I really believe? Do I have any residue from the Lutheran Church? And admittedly, there's just a little bit there every once in a while about who God is. Or do I really recognize that God is this loving, nurturing presence that always says yes to me? So we do our work and we say, and so it is. And then are we preparing for the manifestation, for the demonstration, for the answer, or are we still living as though it's not going to happen? I was in Atlanta many years ago on a business trip, and I just lovingly remind myself of this example. I've got a certain amount of time for lunch, and I want to stop at this shopping mall and run in. And so I'm doing my treatment work for a parking space by the front, by the entrance. So I'm doing my work and I pull into the parking lot and I'm driving along in the back of the parking places. And the still small voice, which is always still and always small and always loving, said, okay, you said that's what you wanted. You want to be up in front. Where are you looking? Are you still looking in the back? Oops, sorry, God. Just a gentle reminder, but after we say, and so it is, do we allow Spirit to do what Spirit does, or are we still looking in the back of the driving aisle? So after, and so it is, and before the manifestation or demonstration for us, do we mind the gap? If you've ever been to London and ridden the underground, you know that they have signage everywhere that says mind the gap. And of course, the gap there is between the edge of the platform and the edge of the subway car. And you so don't want to get your foot stuck in between the platform and the subway car, just for a variety of reasons. You just so don't want to do that. But think about that gap as between when we said, that's what I want and so it is, and it shows up for us. Are we reminding ourselves of all the reasons why that couldn't possibly happen? You're too old. You're too young. You're not smart enough. You don't have enough experience. You don't have enough money. There isn't enough money. Or do we recognize that when we say, and so it is, and know it, and feel it, and accept it, that life has to do something? I don't know, it might have been Ernest Holmes, I don't remember, but that said, my word never returns to me void. So when I speak my word, there's something going to happen here. So when we do that, because it drifts, and we get those, the old tapes and the old messages and the old ego stuff, all we have to do is remind ourselves of the truth. Now, I apologize in advance if there are any English teachers in the room, but some of you know my story that my husband made his transition almost 5 years ago. We'd been together for 33 years, and he was born and raised in a little tiny town in Kentucky, in the middle of Appalachia. We would go every year and visit, and I want to tell you, having come from Southern California, it was an amazing experience to go into and to meet his family, who are absolutely wonderful. But that experience and that culture and gravy and biscuits with every meal, and just all of those things, and I love them dearly, and I'm so grateful that I'm still in touch with them now, almost 5 years later. But they come from different religious teachings and different relationships with spirit. And so what we decided, Jerry, my husband was also Jerry, what we decided, our affirmation, because we were in Kentucky, was very quietly, "Tain't so. Tain't so. Tain't so." So when you're visiting with people who do not come from this New Thought background, who are telling you about how absolutely rotten and horrible and awful life is, or there's not enough money, or there's not enough time, or there's not enough whatever, just gently, "Tain't so. Tain't so. Tain't so." I know it's bad English, I can't help that. But if that resonates for you, I invite you to adopt that. Just gently, don't beat ourselves up. "Tain't so. Tain't so." Because nothing is too wonderful to happen. Nothing is too good to be true. That is absolutely our truth. Now, the really cute UPS guy in the brown uniform is probably not going to show up at your door tomorrow with a box of $100 bills. If he does, I hope that you call me, because I want to know about your consciousness, because I'm not there yet. But the point is, so often when we do our work, when we say what we want, and so it is, there's something for us to do. Do we allow ourselves to listen and act on those ideas that come to us? You want to do that? Well, go here. Call this person. Make that change in your life. We are so loved and so divinely guided and so supported, but it's not going to work for us if we don't allow ourselves to listen and then act on whatever it is we're being told. Is it possible? Will it work? If it didn't work last time, will it work this time, whatever it is? Again, quoting Ernest Holmes, because we fail to realize that principle is not bound by precedence, we limit our faith to that which has already been accomplished, and few miracles result. So, didn't work last time, but I'm a new person today. This is a new experience today. So even if it didn't come out the way I wanted last time, there are new possibilities today. How important it is for us to remember that. So it's about what we believe, but also about what we feel. And you might remember Neville Goddard was one of the earlier New Thought writers, and he talked about the importance of feeling. So I'm treating for a new relationship. What can I do to feel loved, and by loving myself and lovable to someone else? I'm treating for greater financial prosperity. What can I do this afternoon to feel wealthy? So there's that feeling of whatever it is that helps bring about the manifestation or demonstration or answered prayer of whatever it is we're talking about. Neville Goddard, in the Neville Reader, Neville Goddard writes, "Ideas are impressed on the subconscious through the medium of feeling. No idea can be impressed on the subconscious until it is felt, but once felt, be it good, bad, or indifferent, it must be expressed." So how do we feel that love and that abundance and that health? How do we feel that so that whatever it is will come to pass for us? What I know is, and what you know is, it either works or it doesn't. And the example of that in my life was in 1994 and 95. I got a job transfer, and so Jerry and I moved to Boston, which was an amazing experience because he lived in Kentucky. I was born and raised in San Diego, where it's not that the weather is good or bad, it's just we don't have much of it. But as y'all know, in the Northeast, y'all have a lot of weather. And in Boston, there's snow, and ice, and nor'easters, and fall colors, and oh my goodness, it was so wonderful, but just an incredibly different experience. We met the greatest people. It just was so much fun. There for 2 years, I loved it, he hated it. My company transferred us there, and then they transferred us back to San Diego. So we were back in San Diego for about a year, and we're in a small apartment, and we're driving, and the still small voice says, well, turn here and go up this way. And I said, we never go that way. We'll just go that way. So we did, and there's a for rent sign in a condo in a really nice complex. So to make a long story even longer, it's gorgeous, called the owner, moved in. Gorgeous. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, multi-story, absolutely wonderful. We're there. This is great. We told the landlord, we love this. When you're ready to sell, we would love to talk about buying. So we've been in Colorado. The credit cards are run up because we had a Ford Explorer that was full of stuff. We went through every outlet mall between here and there and just had a great time, got home, listened to the message on the answering machine, and the landlord's calling to say, it's time. How are we gonna do this? Because I don't know about you, but to get your first mortgage, to me, that's top of the list of miracles. How are we gonna do this? How are we gonna qualify for this? How are we gonna get the down? Just all of those things. And so we did our thing and we did our work. It's so much fun as a minister when you get to buy what you're selling. I can tell you all day how this works, but you mean I have to do this too? Yeah, you kind of do. So we made an amazing team for 33 years, and when I had doubt, he reminded me, and when he had doubt, I reminded him, and we kept telling each other, it either works or it doesn't. So we did our work and didn't use a real estate agent, never packed a box, and I'm still there 20 some odd years later. It was the most amazing experience. And yet, of course not. Of course it's amazing and that's nice, but of course, that's what you said. That's what you focused on. That's what you treated for. Of course it's going to manifest. If we came from the place of fear and, oh my God, what are we going to do? And oh my God, we better pack up our stuff just in case, then quite possibly we would have been in the just in case. But how important it is for us to recognize that there's no out there, that the universe is always responding to us as we believe. And if it's not working, quoting one of my favorite authors, Edwene Gaines, what must I change about myself in order to receive this? What do I believe about this? What do I really believe about this? And is there something I need to change to allow this, because we're not forcing, to allow this to happen? So again, what relationship do we have with our higher power? So depending on your religious and spiritual background, I was raised Missouri Synod Lutheran. They say it's Catholic without the fun. So we didn't have the vestments, we didn't have the incense, we didn't have the really high church. We kind of had medium church, but we had all the guilt. So all the guilt, all the shame, all that kind of stuff. So I grew up with that. But for some reason I had, and I think it was because my earthly father was just the nicest and the kindest and the most loving and welcoming person I have ever met. And so I'm convinced that the universe has a sense of humor, because one of the practitioners that I studied with to get to where I am today was my saint maker. He was all law and not as much love. But he would always say, "Thank you, Father." When there was a demonstration, "Thank you, Father." And I do that because of my relationship with my earthly father and my relationship with I can't believe I'm saying this, with my heavenly Father. And you get to work that for you however it works. But the point is to have that wonderful, loving, nurturing relationship with Spirit. And that's what we're about. That always says, yes, of course you're going to be okay. Of course that's going to manifest for you. Of course you're loved. So it's our opportunity, because again, I don't like the word challenge, it's our opportunity to decide what's true for us and change what no longer works. Because it works, and you might have heard this in the recovery community, it works if you work it. It really does. There was an old Lutheran song, I'm going to dig back into the filing cabinet in the back of my brain. "Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer." Such a great song, but absolutely the perfect message for us. What are we carrying? What are we worrying about? What are we fretting about? What are we fighting with? Rather than saying, "I don't know how to do this, but you, loving Spirit, you do." And we can release it and just keep reminding ourselves and allow Spirit to do what Spirit does. Because closing with a quote from Course in Miracles, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. And the word miracle is, it's the parting of the Red Sea and the feeding of the 5,000 and getting to New York City in an hour instead of 2.5. We're talking a miracle here. But there's no order of difficulty. So we allow life to do what life does. So with that in mind, would you join me in prayer for just a minute? So in the peace and the quiet of this moment, we allow ourselves to be reminded of our experience as the essence, expression, and experience of Spirit. And we give great thanks for this ridiculously gorgeous day, for this amazing spiritual community and the opportunity to be together today, for the opportunity to be reminded of the truth of who we are, that we are the beloved, and life always says yes to us. So moving forward, we consciously choose that I want that, and I accept that, and that is mine. And I lovingly release that and that and that no longer serves me. And allow that love, allow that peace, allow that joy and that passion that is the truth of our being to be our experience. For this day, for this beloved community, and for the opportunity to be together, we give great thanks. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you so much.